Workers, Rich.
I guess Wayne should sit down.
Oh no. Rustic.
Alrighty. Quiet on the set, boys and girls. Getting ready to go live on the air.
Quiet on the set!
You're listening to WRFB Radio Free Virginia. In no other better freaking place in the world than Deltona, Florida. Here you are, Lunch. No other than the dynamic duo, Laz and Jack.
And greetings, everybody. This is Laz.
And this is Jack. Welcome to another edition of Lunch with Laz and Jack, where we interpret the news so you don't have to.
That's right. Bringing you our own brand of news from right here inside Trinity Avatar 5 days a week for your listening and viewing pleasure. How's everybody doing today? It is Tuesday, May 18th, 2017 here inside Trinity Avatar. We are in the midst of 3 weeks of a free-to-play trial for everybody out there who hasn't gotten in, haven't told their friends and family and gotten them into the game. A lot of new folks running around, good to see. And, of course, today is not going to be the normal show, by no means.
Not at all. We actually have a very special guest with us in Discord, and that is the Chief... Wait, what's your official title, Chris?
The one, the only...
Tech Master, Tech God.
CTO,
Tech Lord.
Director,
Tech Lord.
Design guy for a lot of stuff. My title should be the guy who takes the blame for everything players hate.
Chief Cook and Bottle Washer.
Evil Chris.
Evil Chris, yeah.
On certain days. That's right. We have Atos, a.k.a. Chris, here with us today. We're going to be talking a bit about the death penalty and all that good stuff, combat. And, of course, for those of you guys who normally join us here in the room, and those of you folks who may be joining us today, just keep in mind that if you do have a question, please keep it brief. If you need to, just post in chat and say, hey, I have a question, so that we can move this along nice and smooth and have some fun with it. But in the meantime, I'd like to welcome Chris. Thanks for joining us. And, of course, thanks for coming on last Friday, spur of the moment there. That was always a nice surprise.
Well, I was directed to go to you by people on Discord. Hey, they're talking about your stuff, Chris.
We're always talking about this stuff.
It was bad.
Yeah, you should listen a bit more, and we have some fun. We have a good time with it, of course. And we're not always the most, should I say, the biggest fan of some of the things, but again, we have our opinions.
We have our soapboxes.
That's right, and sometimes we play devil's advocate just for giggles and grins, just for that sake as it is. But meanwhile, I've got a couple questions right off the top. Now, I know we have big changes coming in, and the changes that hit this last release have been hurting everybody. Now, is it fair to say that the community is screaming pretty loudly about this at this point?
It's actually a pretty small number of people screaming about it. But yeah, I mean, it's anytime you turn up the pain on something a little bit, even if it is for the long-term health of the game, people get angry. That's kind of the big takeaway I've learned from multiple years of being the guy who has to make these painful changes.
Now, overall, what is the sentiment that you guys are getting from the community on the death penalty to begin with, may I ask?
So it's one of those things, no one likes the idea of a death penalty, but the games don't work without it. And also, every game has a death penalty, or it has some type of hard cap that players bang into and feel like they make no progress.
Gotcha.
So it's...
Before we get too far into it, can you explain how the death currently works as far as the death penalty? How it currently
that
works?
was one of the questions I had, a couple questions that I've garnered. Where is the experience pulled from? Is it pulled from the pool first? Is it pulled from the skills first? Is it supposed to pull from? How is that supposed to work as it sits right now, I guess?
So right now, just over time, right now it's not time in game, and planning on leaving it as it is right now, where you can accumulate the death decay, which you can get up to 24 hours of death decay accumulated. So if you don't go, like you don't play for a week and you log in after that, you don't have a week's worth of decay accumulated. You always just have 1 day. And that's kind of actually where we will be keeping it, because that means that players who only play every other day don't see significantly more penalty than people who play every day. Or if you play once a week, or if you go on vacation for a month, you don't have to come back fearing for your first, the first time you die where you think you're going to take a huge penalty. But anyways, it builds up over time. It gets applied when you die. That's another thing that's on the list of likely changes coming.
Right. We understand it's applied when you die, but where is it supposed to hit? Is it supposed to hit the experience pool first, or is it supposed to hit the skills pool first, or is it supposed to do both? How is that working right now?
So the way it works is right now, if you get the full maximum amount on there, and again, this will be changing in the next release, but it will be 1/4% of experience will be lost from all your skills. So only the experience applied to the skills. Now it gets applied to your skills, but if your skills are set to train or maintain, then rather than pulling it off of your skills, it comes off of your pooled experience. Experience has not been applied yet.
If you have a pool.
If you have a pool, yes.
Now, it was my understanding, and this is what I got from several other people as well, that it was supposed to be pulling from your experience pool first, and then if you have any pooled experience, it would then pull from your skills. So that is not the case. Is that correct at the time?
That is the case, but only if you have your skill set to like unlearn, or like the bottom two options, basically unlearn or let it decay. If you have it set to maintain or train, then it will pull it from your experience pool first. So you shouldn't see any skills de-level unless you don't have any experience in your pool.
Understandable. Again, I guess I'm not getting the question right. If your skill is not set to maintain or train, where is it being pulled from first? Is it being pulled from?
It goes, if it's not set to maintain or train, then it comes straight off of the skill. So your skill might actually be level.
Okay, gotcha. Now, again, most of the folks I spoke to, and again, my opinion, I believe Jack had the same thing that was coming off the top of the experience pool first. Is that correct, Jack? Did you have the same?
My issue is I never actually look at my actual pool before I die. So I never actually know where anything is actually coming from, and where the pool is actually being, whether or not it's hitting the pool first, and if there is no pool, then it's coming from elsewhere. So that's one where I just don't know where it's ever coming from.
Gotcha. All right. Well, we've got the answer to that, and of course, that's going to most likely. Now, is that going to carry over? Is that's going to be the same thing, but with the new proposed changes that you have coming in for release 42?
Yeah. If you have it set to maintain or train, it'll come off the pool first.
Okay, I have a question on the after you lose your 24 full death when will you lose experience again? Is it an hour, or is it 2 hours, or is it another 24 hours?
I forget what the exact number is, but it's within minutes. But again,
minutes.
it's proportional to the. I think it's. I'm trying to remember if we have it set so every 5 minutes the server ticks off some amount, adds the amount on.
Well,
It's
so
not-
I could
but,
lose experience every 5 minutes then, right after I die.
Yeah. But it's also, you got to remember that it's proportionate. So there's 1,440 minutes in a day. If it's been 10 minutes, and you're going to have 1/144th of 1/4% loss. So you're talking about like tiny amounts.
Minuscule, yes. Okay.
All right.
Uh,
And go ahead.
Someone wanted to say
Did
something.
we lose him? Yeah, I thought Chris was going to keep going on there, and
He may,
Well,
since he is on
I
his
think
phone,
we
he may
just
have
lost. No, he's there.
yeah. Well, he's not talking though.
All right, so
and he
we've
is at
gotten
work,
the answers
so-
there. Yeah, absolutely.
That's one where, when he comes back, this is one where we need to explore a little bit on the difference between like hard skill caps versus no skill caps, soft skill caps, and
Absolutely,
the reason
and,
for the death penalty, because he says that all games that have some sort of or this is one where we enter actually into uncharted territory, because there are no games that don't have any kind of caps, realistically. Most of them have some sort of skill cap, and so most of those games do not have any kind of death penalty. And that's because there are level caps of some sort.
Yes. Now,
We have
we were
XP
talking
loss.
on Friday that got this conversation started, and when Chris
Hey,
had
I'm
asked
back.
for a suggestion,
welcome back.
I threw out.
Hey!
Yeah, welcome back.
I'm
I
on the
threw out.
iPhone app, and apparently when my iPhone turns off the power, it also turns off my voice. So I just explained that to an empty room in here, I think.
Yes, I heard that.
And going back to reflect on that, the example of UO wasn't probably the best example, because again, as you're out there, gain, say you're a brand new character and you're running around out there, of course you gain up till the cap, and then of course once you're at the cap, you don't go any further. But again, let's go back to what we were talking about here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think UO it's obviously an apples and orange comparison, but it does make. The reason I mentioned it was because I was trying to make the example. There's kind of two choices. One is you prevent players at some point, say you can just go no higher, and then you see no more progress, versus what we chose to do, which is say you can always go a little further, but you're also going to have some death penalties that will help pull you back down.
Right. Now real quick on
Chris,
that.
I actually I have a question
go ahead.
about that, because initially the way the attunement system was sold to the community was that as you go up in attunement, it actually drops the attunement in the opposing skill, and so you
No longer, originally.
So that was actually done originally because attunement was actually a skill that you learn, and you had a very direct choice as to whether or not you could learn attunement or not. When we made the shift to move it away from the skill and instead just be the average of all the spells in that school, I disabled that just because I thought it would be too punishing to some players. I do like that concept.
That was a good move. Thank you.
I do
Well-
like the concept, which I actually put on, like you'll see a lot of the artifacts and items that have been created, and some of the buffs and enchantments and stuff like that. You'll get plus attunement in one thing and minus in the opposite.
Gotcha. Now, on the topic of caps, now we've heard that the supposed top maximum is 200. When you hit 100 skill, that's not truly as far as you can go, and we know that in this game. I've heard from a couple players, and I believe this was actually mentioned in a live stream, that when you hit 150, you'll be able to enchant something with the light skill. Is there any truth to that?
That sounds like someone having fun with you. No.
Yeah.
Okay, again, I could have sworn it was mentioned in a light skill. Now,
I'll
when
play
somebody
along if you want me to and say, yes, that is absolutely.
no, again, I had to ask that question just because I know a couple of people who are after it, and I wanted to be able to go, hey, this is what I just found out. But specialization. Somebody wants to specialize. Is there any possibility that they're ever going to hit that 200 cap in any of their skills?
200, probably not. Again, the experience continues to go up and up and up and up. I forget, I haven't looked recently enough to have it fresh in my mind, but I think there is no single player in game right now that if you took every single experience point he'd ever earned, assuming he didn't have any death, and applied it to the easiest skill in the entire game to learn, like I think that might be light, is on that basic thing, he could still not get his light spell to a 200. It is astronomically high.
So the chances of a specialized sorcery or necro mage getting up in those areas in a whole skill tree is
exponential, I believe.
almost non-existent. Would you say?
As Umari points out in chat, it takes about 2 billion XP for the lowest level skills. So that's
okay.
not even a passive would take 6 billion XP.
Yeah, but if you look at the life of the game, if you take what we have now and then like consider where you might be in 10 to 12 years, assuming that you're still playing the game actively.
Well, yeah, that's
you
what
might
I'm
be at 200.
alluding to. The people who plan to be here for 10, 12 to 20 years. Again, Ultima is celebrating its 20th birthday this year, and I plan to be around when Shroud celebrates the same. So, for the life of the character, people want to know what kind of expectations they're going to be able to, shoot for.
So something we've thrown around quite a bit that may be semi in line with what you're talking about is the ability to say, I'm focusing, there's one skill tree that I want to be, this is my primary skill tree. I want to be a fire mage, and I just want to work on fire mage. And declaring that as your focused skill tree. And then all it's going to do for you is it will reduce the amount of decay or eliminate the amount of decay on that tree. So you could try to do something like climb up to a 200 skill. Now, I don't think we would never fully eliminate decay in the skill tree, but it would be, we would have ways to decrease it.
Gotcha.
Now, are you sure about the never killing the decay off? If you actually go back and if we bring up your post from today and your design
that up
doc,
on screen, folks. Yeah, let's bring that up for everybody.
You do have some numbers where, let's see, if I'm going all the way down to the bottom to where you're quoting yourself in your design document, that a player that makes 400K an hour.
Whoops.
It's okay. Plays 10 hours a day, 52 weeks a year, 7 days, and he would have over like 1.46 billion XP. Okay, and then what does death cost that person is each death would cost 9.1 hours of playtime. So every time that person died, they would have to play for 9 hours in order to regain that XP.
Yep.
Now, this actually opens up a slew of questions, okay? Because
bring them on.
For the way that death is going to work, it only accumulates and this is based off of your design document. The time only accumulates while you're in a hunting scene, not when you're in the overworld map, not when you're in town. And
so that is not how it's going to work. It's going to continue to be the way it is right now because if not, we do run into that problem of right now, just to give you the quick version of it, right now, the amount of experience you lose when you die is proportional to the total game time that you've spent playing the game.
I gotta log off. Wait a minute, hang on. I'm serious. What
I'm
the
gonna
heck?
have to
I'm
stop
sitting
standing
here.
around a lot. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
So the time will
anyways,
be. It will
it's
be
before
actual
that.
game
That's
time.
only for action
Yeah.
scenes, though, right? It doesn't count when you're on Overland or
Oh.
It
City.
does count
No,
when
no.
you're on Overland. It
Ah.
counts when you're offline. So that was the initial something that I proposed earlier in this release. That after doing the map, that's kind of what that map table shows. Right now, it's already punishing to the hardcore player.
Oh,
If
yeah.
we made it so it was, then you only accumulated that amount of time or decay when you're online. That same guy who takes 9 hours to regain experience he's lost would also take it. It's basically, it moves it from being a cost is equal to proportional to the amount of time you play. It'll actually be moved to the square of the amount of time you play. Because if that dude takes 9 hours to regain that, he's going to play for 9 hours and build up 9 hours of decay.
And he dies again, right?
And then he dies.
Oh
And then
my
he dies.
God. Oh my
Well,
God.
So that's
If I
why,
may-
that's why it's once per day is basically how it works. That way we don't have to worry about people who, get deployed in the military, or, somebody has a baby and is offline for a month or whatever. It's once per day. And that way also, if you play 2 times a week, or you play 7 days a week, or you play 1 day a week, you basically always have a day of decay when you come in.
Okay,
If
so-
I may ask a question, just
Go ahead.
as a noob, to separate the concept of death versus decay. Now, is there a system? Because I thought that decay was a system where your character would be bleeding off a progression regardless, and then whenever you die, you take a big hit in addition to decay. Is decay always taking away skill points?
It is
Or-
not always. That is one thing we've talked about doing, though, because to me that does feel the right way. Just to skills slowly decay while you're playing the game. But it's one of those things that it was received negatively when we threw it around as an idea. Players didn't want to feel like they're getting punished unless they did something wrong.
Okay,
that's
so
also-
we're not getting double hit then.
No,
We're
you're
not
not
getting a
getting double
bleed
hit.
plus whenever we die we get hit.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
okay.
just on death.
Now,
As long as you got a pull.
another question is, since you have the average XP gains for the hardcore players all the way to players like me who stand around a lot all day long, how is the XP calculated for that XP loss on death? How is that amount calculated?
There's a couple of things that I discovered as I started doing a deep dive into both writing about stuff and then also digging into the data for players and their stuff. So one of the things I found is a lot of the highest tier players don't have all their experience applied. They keep a huge pool of experience, and then they just level things to where they want to and leave it at that. And the reason for that is when you die, the experience penalty is only based on the experience you have applied to skills, not your total experience. You'll never de-level your character. If you've gained, that's the one thing that keeps going up and up and up is your character level. And death does not affect your total experience. The only thing it applies is the experience applied to skills.
Okay. Didn't you say you're going to put an icon up there to let us know about that?
I'm trying to get an icon in for this release. Wizard Smoke is usually the guy that does UI stuff, and he's kind of busy, but I'm going to try to get something in there so we can at least give a hint of how much decay you might be suffering when you die.
And then, let's see, where was that? Will that affect crafting and non-combat skills?
Yes,
So-
one of the questions I had is crafting skills tied to death as well.
So right now, crafting is not tied to anything. Crafting does not decay. We haven't seen the as explosive of growth in the crafting skills that we've seen in the player levels,
Why?
and it's perceived less as a problem than player skills right now. So we have not applied any decay at all to crafting right now. The other part is we have a tough time. I came up with a few things that could be here's the trigger moment, but we kind of just want to apply, this is a punishment, obviously. I mean, a penalty to the players
Well,
for being a
that's
bad
my
player.
understanding of what people are complaining about is they're being punished for succeeding. Is basically is the just of everything I'm getting from people out there, is that hey, usually you play a game and when you go out and you strive to succeed, you get rewarded. You don't get punished.
Well, you do get rewarded. The punishment is only on death, and all games punish on death. I'm not aware of a single game that does not punish in any way on death.
Yeah, but everything's changing right now. Everything's changing, the skills, everything, and we're trying to get a viable way of fighting now because we have to change, and it's kind of not a good time right now, is it?
Now that's on that's on the combat now, of course. The topic of if I'm a fire mage, I can't kill a fire dragon without having to learn another skill is yet another topic, but we'll get to that if we have time.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, my death skills have been changed and they're not as good anymore, so I have to find another way of fighting stuff, and in the meantime, I'm dying here, so, man, it's pretty substantial, I think.
So now let me ask the question. Based on the information in the proposed update and the changes that you're putting in there now, would it be safe to say that keeping it at the 24 hours as it is then, the same math pretty much still applies? So those folks who are going to be over 101 are going to suffer double that penalty? Am I reading that correct, or am I misinterpreting that?
So I'm putting that will likely go live in R43. Obviously, I'm going to continue looking for more feedback and more trying to understand concerns, because my belief is still a lot of this is perception problem, just how the players perceive it. But the other thing is, in that writing I did put in there was I've got a couple pages of just trying to understand, like, what is the point of decay, not just in our game, but any game. Whatever they call it, whether they call it a death penalty or those type things. And one of the things in our game is, a lot of math and a lot of just the balance of the game. One of our goals is to make sure that a player can be in the game and within 40 hours of play can be effective as, with skill can be nearly as effective as players who played 400 or 4,000 hours. The continued escalation of skills was never planned. We'd meant to ramp up the decay quicker to try and keep players more in a reasonable range. But now that we are actually ramping it up, we're getting a lot of pushback. But the problem is there's still players out there with skills in the 120 to 130. They give significant advantages, and I'm left with the choice of, do I go and I cap the advantage you can gain? So, skill over 100 doesn't mean anything.
I thought it was minimal.
So now here's yet another question that in Tech Talk number 4, you were talking to Violation about gaining skills, and he was talking between 80 and GM and over, and you said that anything from 90 to 105 is very, very limited gain, and really is just the appearance of success, and there really isn't much advantage to that. Comments?
So the real truth is the math on everything, it does get better and better and better the higher you get. But the math on things is based largely on the square root of value. So if you go from a 50 skill to 100 skill, it is not twice as powerful. It is more like 70% to 100% power. Because it's not a linear gain in terms of power and damage and all those other things.
So that's right. All the way up to 200.
The topic of people locking things at 80 because anything above that really wasn't worth it.
There was only a 5% difference between 80 and 100 was from Tech Talk 2, I think.
Yeah, so an 80, going from an 81 skill to 100 skill is going from 90% effective to 100% effective. You're talking about you get like 10 or 11% gain for those last 20 skill points. And it's a similar type thing. If you want to get another 10%, you've got to get your skill up to 121. Now, that is somewhat deceiving because there's still a few skills that are set up poorly and that they don't scale at a very linear rate, which I think I have most of them dealt with. But then the other thing to remember is there's a lot of different things that pile up. This is why passives cost so much. Passives can help, everything is based on the square root of things, but if you multiply the square root times the square root, you get the actual value and it turns back into the linear. We have some of that same type of effect going on with the passives factoring into the skills where they're increasing things, plus then you got gear in there, and we're getting back closer to a linear progression, which is, again, not what we want, because we want to try to keep the game as skill-based and not grind-based as possible.
If I may ask on top of that, I think that part of the perception that also tying in death penalty and decay and how much people are losing is we end up with a conundrum of, at what level do you perceive a skill being most effective for the general player? In other words, should a player attempt to achieve in their most used skills, get them to 60, 70, 80 and stop? Because the effectiveness and the usefulness of that skill, it feels that a lot of skills really need to get nearly to GM'd, but yet we're not encouraged to get to GM because the death penalty once again even becomes even higher. So what is the point? At what point does a skill, the effectiveness truly start to show through, though?
So the skill, by design and by all the math, and also just by something people should notice, which is how many instances of the runes you get. 80 is kind of the target for the high moderate player. Grandmaster getting to 100 does give benefits over, but at 80 you get the 5th instance of the rune if you're playing with a dealt deck. That also will matter going into R42 because of the changes to combat, where how many of those runes, like having an 80 skill means that you can basically use a skill 5 times before it is tapped out.
Well,
right. Now, but when those proposed changes, something we want to get to here.
Deck system, right? We're talking about now?
Yes, and we're going to move on to that in just a moment there. Have a couple questions just real quick over here. You have any questions loaded up there, Jack, before I just ask Liquid Blaze's question?
I was processing, so go ahead and ask Liquid.
I guess, I don't know if this has been answered. The question was, what effect does level itself have? Health and focus, permanent advantage in hit chance and damage versus lower level mobs? Was the question.
Talking level.
Let me actually just cut and copy
so
this
the player level,
you.
which is not something we really make public, although obviously there's ways you can find out. We don't put it on your character sheet because we don't want people focusing on numbers.
What are you scared of?
But it is the only things it really affects. There's really 3 things, I think, which is it's used for the base calculation for your health. It's used for the base calculation for your focus, and then it's used for some math for PvE, not PvP, but PvE, in terms of if you're significantly below a creature, you're going to have trouble hitting it, but have a much higher chance of missing it. And also creatures that are way, way below you, as in like 40 plus levels below you, won't have as good a chance of hitting you. But that's pretty much it. That's all it's used for.
Sounds substantial, though.
And then last question on, at least that I've got right now. In our skill levels, I've seen this multiple times on the forums. Hey, I've got 70 skill. Why can't I perform this action? 70 skill is not 70 proficiency.
That's
and
for crafting.
A lot of people are very confused about this. Why is it this way, and why isn't skill and proficiency an equal number? Can we entertain that question real quick?
We can, but I'm probably not the guy to ask as to why that happened. That is actually Beezus. Crafting is pretty much the only thing I did help with some of the math on it. But again, I think the math on it is decent. I think there's some more tweaks that need to be made to it, though, and I really have not had time to go back and try to take a stab at seeing how things are working. That is mostly
it's a time sink.
Yeah, it's all that whole balance of thing. If things I felt were going horrible in crafting, I would probably be dealing with it more. But that's
Well,
things that are pretty good in the craft.
Laz and I do have an open challenge to all of the devs, and that is to time the actual amount of time it takes to craft 20 teleports and recall scrolls from scrap. So you have to convert the wood scrap into wood pulp, and then turn around and run over to the alchemy station.
I don't think I have time to take your challenge.
Yes.
What are you talking about?
Now, of course, I would even answer that and say you have to go collect the scrap also. Yeah, you add that in there.
That would make it beyond a time.
Let's move on because yes, we do have proposed changes now coming into the combat system and all that as well. So while we have some time, let's dive right into that. And the heat system, the glyphs, and the fifth unlocking of that. How is that all proposed to work in the new proposed system coming in release 40? Is it coming in release 42, should I ask?
It is coming in release 42 right now. The challenge is more on the visual side of things. How do we represent this? Because the whole reason we're doing this is so players don't have to look at their bar. But there is some feedback we need to give people in terms of cooldown. And try and figure out how to show the cooldown, represent the cooldown without, again, pulling players' eyes off of the combat. But it basically will work if you have 5 free rooms. Again, you get your 5th one when you get to 80. You start with the 1. I think you get 1 at 80, at 40, at 20, and at 10. So really, you start with 2 or 3. By the time you get to 40, you've already got your 4th one. So really, that climb from 40 to 80 is to get the 5th one. Now, what that'll mean in this is that determines the size of your pool. But basically, it's just imagine if you had a skill that had a 10-second cooldown and you had 5 runes, you've got a 50-second cooldown pool. And every time you use a skill, it adds 10 seconds cooldown that take off. So the shortest version is you can use the skill up to 5 times if you have an 80 skill and just use it over and over again. Now, each time you use it, though, it does build up some, what I'm just calling heat for lack of a better name. If anybody has a better idea, I'll gladly jump on it. I was using heat because it matches up kind of with a lot of other game type stuff with like Mech Warrior or a lot of like Call of Duty type games where your weapons overheat, or Battlefield or something like that.
So you got 5. You got 5. Is that rapid fire then, or is that?
So basically, you can use it 5 times in a row, pretty much rapid fire. Now, as the heat builds up on it, the more times you use it in a row, the longer the cooldown becomes. The longer the overall cooldown becomes. But really, it's the heat builds up on it. It's what I refer to it, and the focus cost goes on it. So you can use it one time, just like you can now. And if you wait the cooldown, you can use it again, and it's the exact same cost. But if you build up on it, basically, if you use it like 3 times, you'll be paying like 50% more focus for it. So basically, but it gives you the option if you just want to sit there and pound out. I need to do. Again, like 5 coup de grace is another one of those perfect examples. You got whatever big boss or whatever dude down to the last 20% or so, and you want to pound out 5 coup de grace to do some massive damage, you can do that, or 5 fire bolts while someone's running away. Or
so now I have to ask the question because I got the question also from Kron SC here. Now he's asking for a lock glyph. Would you need all 5 glyphs actually in the deck, or just one lock glyph?
You just move one down.
So, how is that working? I mean, for people who are using the random floating deck right now, how does that work?
So, if you're using, for the lock stuff, this is just going to be, you drag the skill into your bar and it's there. If you are not using any random cards at all, then all 5 are going to be in there. Now, if you are using like 3 slots to be random dealt, and you've got 2 copies of Firebolt in your random stuff, and then you put Firebolt on your bar, you're going to have 3 copies left. Because it's basically 5 total if you have an 80 plus skill. So it's whatever that's not being used as part of your random deck. If you're playing all locked, then every one of them is going to have all 5 instances in it.
Very interesting.
Now, I had a question from Valo about spells missing. What determines the hit rate of spells?
I don't answer questions from Valo.
And there you have that.
No.
And this
so
answer is
spells
from
missing.
BDF. No,
Yeah.
this question's from no.
Do you know what aspect of spells missing? Like whether they, I mean, because it's
The hit
casting,
rate of,
you got-
like, say, fire arrow, since it can miss. So,
Yeah, so
what
the
determines the
general
hit
rule
rate
is-
of spells?
Yeah, the general rule is spells hit. If someone's in the area, they hit. Now, things like Firebolt can be blocked and it can be dodged. I don't believe Firebolt can be parried, but it can be blocked by shield and dodged. So the hit rate is basically if they don't dodge it. Right now, there's no way to get like a random roll for partial, for full resistance. So right now, all you get is if you hit, you'll either hit them, they'll dodge it, they'll block it with their shield, and that's pretty much the options. And if it hits them, they take damage that scales with the resistance. So they can be resistant to it, but they won't be fully immune to it. They'll take some damage. It'll just be less damage. But there really is no missing, except I take that back, because there's also now the cover. And if something is marked to be blocked, as in you can block it with a shield, then it'll use cover. So basically you can have cover that will stop up to 80% or 100%. Because also I believe that in one of the patches in R41, I turned on a feature that was supposed to be in there all along, which was primarily for player advantage, which is that creatures, if you move behind a wall and something's coming at you, it'll hit the wall rather than hitting you. So you can actually jump out, cast, jump back, and not get hit by whatever fireballs they cast at you.
It indicates that too.
Kind of like the jumping archers for getting the elevation.
Blocked,
yeah.
It says blocked when that happens, I think.
I
That's
wouldn't
a
know
good
any archers like that. Curious.
All right.
No, not me at all.
So now, with that, so is that I'm just gonna guess is going to affect quite a few people's play styles with the new heat system, as it's being dubbed at the moment.
Oh, definitely.
And again, I'm not a big fan of the deck system, so I'm waiting to see these changes to see how that affects my play style. Now, another big one, of course, is a lot of time spent on that combat bar looking. Has there been any other thoughts to adding different bars, different utility bars, expanding on the combat bar to make it more than 10 skills?
Yeah, there's been quite a few talks on that. One of the things I think people don't think all the way through on our system is like they're used to a game like EverQuest or WoW or something like that where you can have tons and tons of buttons out there. Those games designed because those are class based, their limit to the number of buttons you can have for your effectiveness is really tied to your class. Like what, you have a limited number of skills, limited number of things you can do. So having more and more skills out there is not really making you more powerful. It's all for convenience and fun stuff like that. While it's easy to think like, oh, well, why don't we have like 40, let players have like 40 buttons? Well, we can't because we are a classless system. We aren't limiting you through through some artificial class thing. You can be a master of death magic, fire magic, ice magic, earth magic, sun magic, and basically fill up 50, 60 bars with just nonstop, endless attack skills that you could all use at once.
Sounds good to me.
I
sounds like-
I don't think anybody would complain with that.
Well,
I mean,
it's my job.
How about a couple extra ones? Come on,
I
up
can
bars.
complain about anything.
Well, no, it would be at the very bottom of the skills. So, say ranged, for example, at the very bottom. If you get all the way down there, then maybe you can unlock a skill to unlock a new bar for your range stuff, or something in fire, all the way down. Because no one's going to master all the way down to the bottom everything, right? In theory.
Well,
Unless you're team
it's
up.
technically not possible, but yeah.
Well, some
again,
people got pretty.
That's another can of worms altogether.
Yeah.
Speaking of class systems, skill caps, and all that, what kind of feedback have you guys gotten on that? Now, I know that's pretty much been off the table because that's not what this game is promised to be. But what's the what's the sentiment that you guys have been getting that maybe there should be or should, or is it still it shouldn't be? It should be wide open. Right now, my feedback from most people is it should just be wide open, Wild West. And I understand that there's got to be some limits, but what have you guys been hearing along those lines?
There's still some people, again, this is, when you look at it, there's a direct correlation between players who listed Ultima Online as the best game ever and the people who I just want to steal.
Yeah.
You want to hear something crazy?
Bird.
I put that poll out, and I have not done another one yet that goes out to everybody. But there were actually more people who had played Skyrim playing our game than there were who had played Ultima Online.
Well, personally,
That's not online though. Elder Scrolls Online.
I've heard of like half of those games that were on your list, and I mean, I've played, a fair number of games in my time. Most of those games that were on your list, I went 0-0. Nope, never played.
Oh yeah, there was a lot of that.
Now, I'm not, I'm not unique,
Can
but
anyone
when
hear
I
me?
play a game, I play a game. I'm a Shroud and Avatar gamer right now. My partner Jack, he'll play several different games, as do many other people. Jack's always out there.
That's
shooting
because
things
I mean, while I'm
loyalty.
crafting,
No loyalty.
I am also killing people in other games.
Yeah,
So,
but
so I alt
I
tab
tend to
and I'm always
focus
okay.
one game at a time. So
same here.
that would skew just a little bit. But let me ask this question: the movable health bar. Are we ever gonna see that? Do you have any influence on that? Do you have any? Oh, he wasn't there.
All right. Yes, I was
interface,
not there. Sorry, I got a phone call and it decided it would totally disconnect all voice stuff and not let me reconnect. No, I did not take the voice call. I just got a call.
Yes.
Okay,
But
repeat that last.
I'm gonna guess you missed it. But I was gonna say I'm asking about the movable health bar. Are we ever gonna see that in this game?
Yes, that is absolutely. Having all that stuff more configurable and movable for you is on my short list. But again, that's one of those things. We really have one guy who's great at UI stuff, and anybody else, there's a number of other people who can do some of that UI stuff, but it would take them, 3 times as long or more.
And then,
So-
of course,
Yeah,
we
so
have
having-
another guy out there wondering when cupcakes are going to make an appearance, but I wouldn't know who that is
Never.
out there.
Yeah, but I do want to have all that stuff configurable, movable. That is not by design. That is by lack of manpower.
Gotcha.
I still hope I could get like one more engineer up here who could actually help with some of the UI stuff, because I feel that is the longest tail. I don't think it's blocking us really from finishing the game, but it's going to be the longest tail of stuff we continue to polish, in my opinion. Our UI, when people look at the game and I occasionally see it's got 1997 graphics, a lot of times what they're talking about, some people actually say that in a nice way because they are looking for a retro game, but a lot of times what they're talking about is the UI is the first thing that makes an impression on them. And
the UI is one of the last things you clean up and polish before release, because you go through so many changes during that time. Yes.
Unless you have no knowledge of the process of creating a game, then it's UI.
Yeah.
God, shut up.
But alrighty. Any other questions, folks? Jack, you got any more on?
Well, I've got about 1,000 questions, but we don't have the
bring 'em on.
time for it.
Well, we have time for several more at the moment. We want to field a couple from the audience out there who.
Laz, you mentioned worms earlier. Speaking of worms.
What?
Laz has worms.
We're not worried about worms. God,
Fishing. Come on.
this is combat, man. Come on, we want to get experience.
You guys are buzzkill.
Go ahead.
What
Questions?
about worms?
Go ahead.
Everybody's afraid to ask a question. Come on, people! You have an open forum here
Now,
to ask.
okay, so Chris, this is one of my biggest complaints about combat. I know there are several people, including our very own Justin, who completely disagrees with me. But as far as combat goes, would there be an option to enable collision?
So in offline play, we probably could. In online play, I think we would be ignoring a lot of history if we did it, because there have been not only a number of games that have had it, but also then had to turn it off. And the games that didn't turn it off, it caused so much pain and frustration, so much griefing, so many problems. We have some solutions for some of it, but the bigger problem is another one of those areas that is the bottleneck. We could turn it on for players. Actually, we do have it on for players, play PvP. But turn it on for AIs drastically changes the AI for creatures and how they behave. It makes things so much easier for them to exploit and grief and cause problems with creatures. So really the creatures is the biggest thing. But also there's this whole problem of, lag and the penetration of things, and there's a lot of problems that will come from it. And in the games that have turned it on, they've turned it off pretty quickly.
Okay, so what about targeting?
Yeah, I was going to say that. Targeting is a big one.
We got another hour to talk.
Collision leads straight into targeting.
Now, my big one on targeting, of course, and everybody who knows and is tuned in here, is why in the world is my targeting also tied to my camera? And when I turn 45 degrees, my guy just stands there and gets his ass whooped because my camera is not facing my target.
No, the character is.
The character needs to be facing the target. Chris and I have had this
Get better.
before, and it was fixed a while back, and then it just went back to the camera. If you're fighting something and your character is facing it, and
you
doing what it's supposed to be doing, and you
to
swing your camera around 45 plus degrees, your character stops attacking magically.
Yeah.
Yep. So your facing is actually based on the camera rather than the character. So that's something
That
we
is
could.
then obviously that's messed.
Yes.
It's one of those things that the people who complain about it are the people who like to stream, because they want to flip the camera around without their character stop fighting. But you flip the camera around, and then obviously your character turns around.
Well, not even that. I like to be able to look at the fight from that perspective, because when my character is in front of me on screen and I'm trying to target something that is yet in front of that character, I either have to come up to a top view or I have to swing my camera around in order to target that. And I tend to do that more. And again, this is one of my pet peeves, and I know it affects a lot of other players, but this was, I got to say, a year and a half ago when you and I had this discussion during the interview. And again, you had said that, yes, your character physically needs to be, and I'm like, yes, but the camera shouldn't be tied to that.
Yeah, I like to see if there's an archer behind me or something, somebody's coming up on
I
me.
want to look over my shoulder. I'm still fighting. And it's just one of them real big annoyances, because, again, I'm hitting something and, I look over to the side for a second and, I get distracted in the room and all of a sudden I'm dead because I look the other way.
So a lot of this comes from a lot of the combat. A lot of the elements we do are not really target-based, but they're area-based. And we have to pick how you what area we're looking at. And it's kind of, you have a choice of either you go with what the character's doing, but then you turn the camera around and you want to fight the guy behind you. You've got the camera there, and it's annoying because you have to do I got to tap W or something like that to get me to actually turn the face that way. Because that's going to be the other fallout from that is if you are looking one way and fighting that guy, and you turn your camera to attack that guy who came up behind you, then now you're not going to be attacking that guy that is behind you. You're going to
well, technically, I should be attacking what I've targeted and not what's running. I mean, if I have my focus on an archer and I'm chasing him down, I should still continue to focus on him. But for some reason, something runs in front of me, that goes away. Why does that happen?
So you shouldn't lose him as a target. The thing that'll happen is, so how it works is you have a actual selected target. If you've actually tab selected him, made him a hard target, then it should stick with him. I know right now there's at least one bug where you can lose that target. But the
G key, right?
Yeah, like the G. Actually, for newer players, that's one of those things that we left it on the G because some players got used to it. But for anybody who starts the game now, it's the tab key.
It went back to tab.
Yeah, so
Yes,
it's back
they
on
finally
because that's one of those things.
Tab targeting a couple releases back, if you don't recall.
Yeah, so right now you have to enable the other type of targeting mode if you want to have it on. It's not on by default. You have to actually go into the options UI and enable it. But anyway, so if you're chasing an archer, you've got him targeted, and you're swinging your sword, and he is not within your range, or he's not within your range of your sword. Do you think you should hit the thing in front of you if there's something else in front of you? There's like a
I shouldn't be swinging my sword at anything except what I'm chasing and targeting, in my opinion.
You need a longer sword.
And you can get a notification that your target is out of range.
If I'm trying to take down somebody who's shooting at me, and a deer runs by, I'm not swinging at the deer. I'm still focused on the guy I'm targeted. No? Yeah,
Well,
yes,
so
we had that problem, and that problem
bunnies.
is fixed.
So here's the thing: is you're fighting. Imagine the case you're fighting 4 bears. I mean, this is something you see all the time. The bears will spread out around you. You pick one as a target, but if you're saying the bear moves to the side of you and you're still swinging your sword at these other 3 bears, you just want to stop attacking and not attack those bears in front of you. That's not the actual behavior people want.
Well, I mean, if
that's
I'm
not-
targeting
that's
something
not-
that's 3/4 of the way dead, and then the 4 more bears pounce on me, I want to kill off that thing that I'm fighting before I turn my attention to the other.
But the other thing is, if you attack and he is a valid target, he is what you're going to hit. It will hit him, and it'll hit, if it's something that hits more than one target, like a sword swing or something like that, it'll hit both your selected target and then it'll hit the next best 2 targets or whatever. But it'll always hit him first if he's a valid target. The thing that I think confuses some people is if you cast a spell and your selected target is not valid, it'll fall back to the next best target.
Well, then that's where I'm getting confused. If I've selected him as a target and I have him targeted, how does he become not a valid target? That's what I don't understand.
Because he moves out of range, or he moves behind something, or he's out of your front arc. So you can't actually, he's not in front of you.
Okay.
So any of those things, I mean, there's you have to be facing your target. That's part of the thing. Is you'd have to be facing your target.
Well, that's part of the targeting issue with playing the way that Laz, myself, Arius, a bunch of other players in the channel actually have it, and that's because we don't play in first-person view, and we play swinging our camera back and forth, and so the game is automatically shifting that target because, say, your fire arrow spell or your death ray is going to turn around and target what the game is telling us is a valid target because we're trying to look and see what's going on with the combat.
Can I, if I may?
Yes, please. And then we're gonna have to start wrapping up real quick.
What I think for a suggestion of the way that I personally would like to see it play is that where the camera is not linked, it is about the direction that the character is facing. However, if you target something with the mouse, for example, that the character will auto face its target. So it will swing at that target. So if I click the bear that's behind me, my character will swing around, but it's always from the point of view of the direction that the character in game is facing.
Camera.
Well, again, that was my understanding initially, is that as long as my character was facing the target, that was what was important, not the way my camera was. So
And just let it auto target, and by targeting it, right, you're going to turn that direction, so that way your camera, where your camera's tied to, doesn't make any difference. All it becomes is a big selector for what's on the field. You could do a top-down venue way and let it be almost like a 2D game at that point. Something, I don't know, makes more sense.
moving
Isometric
right
gun.
along. Yes.
Isometric game. Blah. Words. But
So what you're talking about, we could do. I think there's going to be side effects. So maybe I could add that in as an option for this release, or get One and Only to add that in as an option.
Side scroller.
But I think you're going to see the reasons why we don't do that. But maybe for your style of play, where you want to keep your character facing one way and swing the camera around and be attacking the direction your character's facing, that maybe that works for you.
I mean, yeah, a lot of times, again, I'm personally in one of the dungeons and my back is against the wall and I can't see nothing because the camera's skewed, because what the camera does, and I want to swing it around so I can see what's in the hallway and attack. And
so that's when we actually handle this
right.
release, is if the camera gets pushed to the point like you back up against a wall in a dungeon, the exact case you described, the character actually fades out when the camera gets close to him. So the character vanishes, so you'll be able to see in front of yourself.
yeah, well, no, because
I
I don't like my character vanishing. I want to see where my character
We're gonna
is.
delete you.
See, that's the
Delete you.
problem.
Delete.
But anyway, yeah, so we noticed that like right here on set, and I'm going to bring that up because we've been on that. If I sit back down here and this happens, and this was fixed for a while, that if I swing my camera around like that, I used to still be able to see my camera and my character didn't disappear, just because I swing my character around. And again, when I swing my character around, I expect it to stay. I have to stay top view in order to do that. But as soon as I come down here, all of a sudden I'm in first person view again and I'm screwed because I'm lost. But, you know, that's, again, the camera is really something with targeting that affects a lot of players, especially those of us that we know. But anyway.
Just out of curiosity, so you actually use the Q and the E keys to turn yourself?
No.
So
is that what you would want to do? So how would you handle the turning of the character in your situation?
I use my mouse.
I use both.
I press my right mouse button. I turn my camera where I'm facing. I click my left mouse button to target what I want. And I swing my camera to be able to view the fight and see what's around me so I know what to target next.
You're swinging it by turning the camera and then pressing the W key or something, like moving forward a bit so your character faces that way?
No, I'm using WSAD to move forward. And then I use my right mouse button to swing my camera around to see what's in front of me. And now if I'm running around here, I'm going to click on Led Zepp and target him over here, but it's not targeting. I don't know.
Okay, so for one, you have to understand we both have the mouse mode disabled. The free look mode is disabled, so we had to hit what was the tab key.
Yeah, it seems like this game is designed for the free mouse look to be on. Like that's the focus.
Yeah, so free mouse look is off, and so in order to do any kind of mouse look and change perspective, you actually have to hold down your right mouse button. So yes, I can move my mouse all over the place.
Changes, so you can't
doing it wrong.
Half the people I know, and if not, one of the first things I tell them is get rid of that automatic mouse movement. And again, that's
also off for new users. That's also off.
Yeah, so new users are going to be experiencing more of the style of gameplay that Laz and myself are currently playing with and have been playing with.
Yeah, but things you swing your camera around and now you're looking at your character's face. Now you quit attacking if you do that. But like, what are you guys doing to actually turn? Are you you're saying you turn your character by double clicking or
no, in order to turn the character you actually have to play with WASD.
Oh yes, you actually have to hit the
hit
W to turn your character when you're moving your absolutely.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying is that would be the difference is now you've got to follow your character. So the thing we're not going to do is have it so you auto face your target at all times.
That should be an option to click on and off in the options menu.
Now that actually does happen with the new auto defend, which to most people is just what auto attack they were asking for. Auto defend will do that for you, but again, that's really
good
not.
Thing. Yeah, that's a good thing.
Again, it's just one of those things that being tied to the camera is a major hindrance because not everybody's looking at it.
That's a bad thing. Yeah, I like to look behind me.
Real quick, you said you were gonna maybe do a study. on how many people actually use first person. Did you ever delve into that?
It is not that many. We did look into it, but there's not that many that play in first person, which is kind of what we expected. But yeah, there's some people who, again, it's one of those things, while there aren't that many who play in first person, we're supporting it.
You can't see your weapon in first person anyway. That's what my grandson was.
I can see
playing
that.
now.
To
Where's my
expand
weapon?
it.
Gotcha.
We're not going to expand the functionality and do things like show your weapon and those other type things that you would expect from a true first person game.
Yeah, my grandson didn't like that.
You can't run
Well,
around with a
this was
chainsaw?
never really intended to be a first person, correct?
Yeah, it was never really intended. It's just one of those things. I mean, there's a lot of things we can do in the, with tech that are really, really easy. Things like, hey, can you guys support VR? It's like, well, sure, we can support Oculus Rift. That's, like a couple of button clicks, and we can make an Oculus Rift version of the game. Now, it's an insane amount of work to make the UI not suck for it and make the textures not work and all the other things. But, that was kind of the case. I mentioned that because that's kind of the same case as the first-person camera. It's really easy for us to do first-person. All we have to do is pull the camera in, but it's all the extra stuff people expect when you move to a first-person game that that's a massive amount of work to do. We won't be doing.
Okay, Jack, any more questions from the folks out there that we need to, that are not just, poking fun at things?
How about more experience for the casual player? Is that something that...
So something for the casual player, and this may be actually what I do instead of making decay something you can remove, is just basically going to kind of the standard login type bonus thing, where you get a daily bonus of logging in terms of rested experience or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
I do still have something like that for the casual player, that it'll just be basically like if you log in on a daily basis, your first 30 minutes of play or whatever.
Yeah, I'm talking about like a higher level character.
I was going to say, are we thinking, or any thoughts on a power hour, as it may be?
Power hours in like an hour during the day when you get double experience or something, or your first hit, you get double experience?
Some games used to have, what game was it that had that? Was it an Ultima?
I think Black Desert Online has a power hour every day.
Yeah, where your
It's a
first
certain
hour
time.
online gives you X amount more extra boost if you're actually out
the
there.
XP.
Then
3 o'clock in the morning.
Now, the other thing that's only come up like 30, 40 times in the stream chat is actually going to be related to loot tables. When is going to be the next iteration of loot table changes?
the next pass.
It's going to start dropping their clothes, so that way I can put it on where.
You're talking about the 5 gold for a level 90 mob?
Yeah.
20 gold.
I
for
would
a
never
dragon
mention
that 8 people
somebody
beat.
that traveled to the bottom of a dungeon to fight a lich with Chris and ended up with 8 gold. I would never mention that group.
I'd love to get Lich's robes. That'd look awesome. Even the bandit clothing looks amazing. By the way, kudos to the person who designed the new bandit look. That looks amazing. I'd love to be able to get that outfit in game.
So for the loot tables, I've mentioned this before too. It's kind of my pet peeve too. I've come along and put some, just because I knew our loot sucks. Put some band-aids on myself, that's where the artifacts came from. I was just so frustrated that we don't have any any rewarding loot. It didn't feel like, and so then the artifacts came along, but those are kind of both a little quirky and also so rare that you kill, fought and killed boss lich, and got 7 gold.
It's so rare that 300 vendors have them all on them for sale at astronomical prices. I mean,
we need middle loot. We just don't have it right now. That's one of those things I hope to address. This release was kind of swallowed up by a couple of big things I really hadn't planned on, just with some a ton of localization stuff, and then also Unity 5.6, and so this release, I'm not going to get a lot of the stuff I'd planned on getting done. I am making sure to get work done on decay and combat updates. But most other stuff, including trying to get better loot in the game, will probably take a backseat. I will try to sneak some more stuff in and try to sneak some more middle loot in, but you see my daily blog, you know how much I have on my plate.
Absolutely. I think folks would just like to see a little bit more useful loot.
I would like to see a bottle of experience.
Ends on the lower level tiers and mid level tier. Yeah, I think that's really what they're pointing for.
Would Chris like to see cupcakes?
What would be the barrier to just adding gold to the loot tables on the lower end? I mean, I'm sure that would be so easy to do, but as far as a balance thing, is there some reason you can't give more gold on the lower level creatures?
Yeah, no, I look at the charts all day in terms of what people are doing to make money, how things are, what's driving the economy, and what the mean gold is. One of the reasons we don't like gold is because it's one of those things that's really easily farmable, because right now it doesn't have a weight. You can basically stay out all freaking day long without, even having to take a break to go back to town to pick stuff up. The thing right now that oddly is, anybody know what the number one item in the economy is right now in terms of adding gold to the economy?
Probably metal scrap.
Silver? I don't know.
I would think that it'd be boron.
What scrap?
It is two-handed pole arms. That is the number one thing generating gold in the entire game.
Oh, the farming? Yeah.
That's the only place there is.
Oh, I got you.
And it's not that much, I don't think. I don't think it's that much, so.
Yeah, that is the thing that contributes more to the economy than anything else. And actually, I can pull up those numbers in the background while I'm sitting here. But yeah, so that generates a ton of the economy. And it's just totally unexpected in terms of, but it's people have figured out there's a lot of these that drop. Their gold per weight is a good ratio. But it's that type of looking at if we just add gold to everything, we basically have to start pushing down other stuff, or else we start seeing more inflation. Right now, the gold, it's really, the inflation rate is kind of right where we want it right now.
Okay.
Let me look at the 7-day thing. Yeah, so the number one, I was correct. The number one thing that is adding gold to the economy right now is weapon two-handed polearm number one. In the last week, that single item being picked up by players off stuff they killed and sold to creatures actually netted the players almost 5 million gold.
Wow.
So it's not much, but it's times a lot. But then the number two is corpse wax. That's just stuff sold to NPCs.
That's because there was so much undead out there. That's why.
How far down are the borers and the black cutworm, emerald ash borer, and hemlock? Because and I want to thank. I don't know if this is intentional, but it seems to me that the people that farm plants, that's our thing. That what few of us there are. That is your way. I'm assuming that's your way of saying you've spent this time, and here is an equivalence of gold if you had been out killing, bandits or whatever. Because
I think it's
I like it. Thank you.
I'm not seeing those in the top 25.
Really?
I'm looking at Umuri's excellent conversion of the chart.
That's another thing that probably do a whole radio show on, is a lot of this stuff is now exposed to, I wouldn't say it's exposed to players, it's exposed to nerds who actually know what they're doing and are technical enough to try and extract it. So the goal with that,
you mean
public website.
Umuri?
Well, Umuri, there's others too that are doing it. They're just not being as open.
Now,
Umuri's being a good guy and being open about all this stuff and sharing.
Absolutely. We love you, Mari. He's always got some good insight to things, and I've always loved when he comes back arguing and discussing math with you. But one of the things that he threw in there, and one of my pet peeves, used to be, and I know I've reported it, I know many other people reported it, was the no zone command, the command that allows you to be invisible to all your friends in the world.
What are you trying to say?
Now, unless you unfriend people, as long as you're logged in, people can see where you are in the world. Any chances of us getting an option to be able to turn that off? And I'm going to give you one of my reasons is I log in and I want 10, 15 minutes to get myself situated. And the minute I log in, all of a sudden my
Hey,
chat
Laz. Hey, Laz.
hey Laz, because they know I'm here. Yes.
Now we can make the no zone make it so your current zone doesn't show up, but that won't fix the hey Laz problem.
Well, it would hide the fact that you were online,
Remind
so
me
that
not to chat with you if I'm in the
couldn't
game.
see you. is
Oh, so
what
you
it
want to
was.
hide it like just your presence online to everybody? Yeah, that's.
And again, this is a question for those PvPers out there. I know we have the question mark in the zone, but say I have Merc on my list of friends. When Merc logs in and I have the log in front of me, it goes, hey, Merc just logged in. And I go, ooh, I know where Merc hangs out. I'm going to go whack his ass because, but I know he's online now.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's not
I know,
PvP. He ain't PvP. So
Actually, I think people that are flagged PvP probably shouldn't be able to detect or know where other people
Well,
are at. Period.
That's where
Because that
most
would be part
people
of the
that
detriment.
I know that are flagged permanently PvP, they unfriend everyone.
that's
Yes.
of course
And
Now, of course,
obvious.
we will be starting a service soon enough. It's called Laz's Locator Service because Laz has a lot of friends. So,
I don't know.
Oh yeah, now you want friends, huh? Now you want friends.
oh, I've got the friends, brother. I've got the friends. You want to find out where somebody is? You want to come to the news guy? No. Thoughts on that?
So that's come up quite a bit actually in terms of being able to hide yourself. It's one of those things we just.
An invisible
I would like
mode
to
or
have some
something
way of
like
doing
that.
it, but just hasn't made the list of stuff to do. Yeah, so we can probably get that on the list if you keep nagging us about it.
Nag.
Nag.
Alrighty.
Just
Okay,
about it
so-
on your radio show until people tell me to get on the radio
I'm
show.
great at nagging.
Discord.
Oh, there you go. I'm actually that's humorous to hear because again, it's not like we don't discuss you and poke fun at you and the guys from time to time, and of course we voice our opinions and we ask everybody to come join us again every day and voice their opinions. And if we don't have any more major questions coming out of the gallery here, I'm going to go ahead and
There are
start.
thousands of questions. It's whether or not. I mean, we did say that we were trying to wrap it up 15 minutes ago, or actually 18 minutes ago.
Well, I knew hitting an hour today was going to be impossible, so that's.
Otherwise, I'll sit there and ask the question that someone asked me to ask, and that was about
Then
combos.
please do while we are still here, and Chris doesn't have to.
Chris.
Fire away. Yes.
Combos. When are they going to get some love? And a secondary question would be, have you thought about actually automatically adding those to the skill list with your heat map changes?
The heat changes, so they are going to be usable through the locked deck, which will basically be you have to build up heat on two skills is probably how it's going to work. I don't think that'll make R42. Just as I mentioned, I got slammed with a ton of stuff I wasn't really planning for this release. But the plan is that it would be you have to build up a little bit of heat on two different skills, and then you can combo them and turn them into a combo that you use.
Where's that going to show?
Hopefully it'll be in R43. Some of it is I just want to see
Well,
how the
what I was actually trying to get to was, so automatically add the combo as a new card that's only available when you have it, but it's got a longer cooldown than the other skill.
Where would that new card sit?
Right, that's what I was asking.
You would have to add it to your deck, and then you could lock it. So, like Fiery Decay, you have to have Fire Arrow and the Death Ray in order to have the Fiery Decay.
So you want to waste
that
one of
would-
my precious 10 glyphs by putting a combo?
Yeah, exactly. Where is that going to show up? Where will that show?
I don't
so
really
the-
use a locked deck other than for the only cards I have are Healing Ray Healing Touch that's ever locked. And that's my panic button.
Heal and run. Heal and run.
I love that.
Panic
Yeah,
button.
so part of the justification for making combos more powerful, which currently they are not, and they need, that's
That's
probably
what I
the
thought.
longest people were talking about, is I've been saying for a while I was going to give them a pass and make them appropriately powerful. Right now they're just about as powerful as other skills. Part of the justification for that was making sure that there's either some skill factor involved in it or some time factor is kind of what we're shooting at with the new locked system where you can use it. Because basically in the new system, you have to generate some heat, so you have to do some stuff before you can do them. But then if you do that and you're planning ahead, then you'll be able to use it, turn two skills with some heat on them into a combo, and it'll execute the combo immediately, but then it'll add heat to both skills, a significant amount of heat to both skills. And then the unlocked version, it obviously requires some skill elements and paying attention to what's going on down below, and that's kind of what you're paying for it. I think most people knew that kind of a lot of the deck stuff that was in there originally was not just to be weirdos, but it was to make something that was more skillful, so that more skillful players, if they wanted to, could put out more effort by using a deck system. But yeah, so I don't think we want to get to the point where it's just another card you put in, because then it's not a combo, and I can't really justify. It's harder to justify the extra power it would have, and I would like to make them significantly more powerful, possibly even this release.
That'd be nice.
Okay.
Very nice.
Laz, I have one more.
Shoot.
And all right, now that I have you here, Mr. Chris, and I just, could you explain to me or the thought process behind this? Is my biggest one that drives me insane. Is shadow form in the moon tree versus silent movement in the subterfuge tree.
Regions.
Regions. Here we go.
Reagents.
Here we go. Moon magic is magic. Subterfuge is I hide behind a trash can. You can't see me because of the shadows. I use actual reagents in moon magic. The stealth percent on the moon magic is half of what the stealth is in silent movement. But the moon magic also requires reagents. Now, from my personal D&D logic, a magic spell is magic, and it's either going to work 100% or it's not going to work at all. You're not going to get a partial invis, right? You're going to get an invis. The question is how long? Shouldn't moon magic, considering it's using reagents, always be 100% stealth, but you can't hold on to it forever, where you could sneak around a town with silent movement, but the chances of you being seen are far higher because you're not really invis, versus someone who is really invis because it's magic. Can you explain why moon magic is half the stealth of?
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up the exact numbers here. So if I have 100 skill in shadow form, I have a 50%, which seems way low to me.
Should be 100. I just personally think magic is magic, and if it succeeds, it should always be 100%. Like that should be the staple. The skill gain would be the length and duration of it.
So just to be clear, it does look like something is wrong with it, because this is not how it was designed. It was actually supposed to be slightly better than the subterfuge equivalent. I'm looking right now, though.
You add the reagent cost onto it, and it's
a little love.
It needs tender love.
So just to be clear on what the percentage is. So if you're 1% stealth, you'll have the stealth effect on you. That percentage number is the percentage of the distance at which you can be seen, or how much it shortens your targeting range. Now, what that means for creatures is if a creature normally saw you at 100 meters, which that's a crazy long distance, but I'm just using that because it's easy math. If they saw you at 100 meters and you were 50% stealth, they would not have a chance of seeing you until 50.
Right, and to use it, like I use it on the overworld map to attempt to get around bandits or skeletons that I want to avoid, right? And the thing is that even at a skill level of 50, right, which is it's not exactly that great, but even at a skill level of 50,
I can be pretty far away from them and they will still break my stealth. They'll break the invis, they'll see through it, and then I will fade and I will lose that invis, and I'll get pulled in anyway. And it doesn't seem to be effective really much at all, to be perfectly honest.
Well,
and I try it all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it should be as effective as whatever that percentage is in terms of shortening it. The problem may just be for the overworld creatures, they may have numbers set wrong with them. Those probably have not been scrutinized. I don't know. I mean, I've used it some just sneaking around myself, like sneaking through the rise and some other stuff with my skills way up high. I mean, I know it's working because I can turn like mine up to be 98%, and then I can basically sneak 5 feet from a creature.
Yeah, but again, that's talking about getting something GM'd when we talk about you don't want everybody to GM all the skills, right?
Absolutely.
So if we get it to a level that it is useful and it won't break, typically, you might need a Grandmaster in Moon Magic to get through a really high-end area, like super high-end, but typically through your common world, you want it at like level 60 or level 70 skill maybe, and then it should be perfectly effective.
It should be effective. So I'll look at the numbers again on those. Shadow form should be, and it looks like right now it's not. I'm not sure what changed. That may have been some change to attunement math or something else that ended up nerfing that more than intended. Does that sound that goes off whenever I say attunement, or is that
bug report?
Bug. But yeah, I'll look at that. What was I going to say? There's one other point I was going to make.
Why would I ever use something that takes reagents if I can use the non-reagent version and it works better? Right.
Yeah, so that is without a doubt that needs to be fixed. The other thing I was going to say is there actually, for R42, there's going to be a change to the help range for creatures, which is one of the big things that annoyed me as a player, because I actually go in and play the game both on Atos and another character, trying to play like a normal person, and that's one of the things that really annoys me is trying to split groups. So like you got like 6 bandits or whatever, I think most people know if you touch one, they're all coming. That was largely due to they had a help range, and the help range on most creatures was set way further than it should have been, and they were chain helping. So some of that should be improved. Yeah, that should be improved for this release for R42. The other thing I was going to say is if you're kind of at a modest skill, another one to try is, have you been trying to use distract at all? If you're trying to get around people or get by people?
No.
Because that should actually let you, that's the one where you get to pick a ground target. That's like the first skill in there it's one of those not used much skills, but I think with the changes to splitting, the changes to the aggro help range, I think that players will actually find that distract can actually be semi-useful now, because you can actually move creatures around if you're stealth or trying to pull, not aggro everything.
That would require a long range, wouldn't it?
Is that less static, you guys?
Yeah, that's a lot better.
Yeah, it sounds a little better.
Thank you.
Yeah,
working on it.
But we really should be getting out of here and respecting Chris's time, so that way we can get Chris to come back.
Yeah, I should let you know, Violation, I normally do a Tech Talk Tuesday, and Violation said he felt like he was being cheated on.
It's
we got 3 minutes before that's supposed to be scheduled to start. So
we went ahead and postponed it, and you might be brain fried from talking to you guys.
Absolutely.
But I do also, anytime I'm on his show, and I'll say the same thing on your show, if there's people out there that think I'm playing favorites with who I come talk to, I've never declined a single request to come talk on somebody's show.
We are well aware of that, and again, we don't request that you come join us often because we know you're a busy guy. And again, we were very charmed that you came over to on Friday and said, "Hey, I'm here to answer those questions if you want to talk about them."
If you guys want to set up like a bi-weekly thing or something, feel free to send me an invite. You know how to get a hold of me.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. We will, again, it was something I originally had come to you and said, hey, I'd like to do a developer's corner once a week or something like that. And you were like, hey, I'll cut somebody loose. And again, we just felt like we were infringing on that,
which introvert will not get on camera.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the problem we have is doing the development. Really, I mean, you guys know who the faces of the project are.
Oh yes.
We're the faces because we pay attention to more of what's going on in the project than the average developer. A lot of people really are just focused on their one little, their thing. But it's also because, guess what? Engineers, a lot of them are introverts.
Yes.
Quiet artist types. A lot of them are introverts and don't want to be on camera. So.
Well, we don't have to put them on camera, just like we did today.
Yes.
But meanwhile, let's go ahead and wrap it up then. And we're going to just say thank you to Chris for coming to join us. We will be taking you up on that. We'll definitely be chatting with you. And, of course, we invite you just to pop on in and say hello if you're not doing anything in the afternoons and you see the other guys huddle around their radio listening to the show. Just to pop on and chat and say hello. We're here 5 days a week as well. But I want to thank everybody out there for coming in and joining us today, whether you're tuning in on the in-game radio on WRFB, Radio Free Britannia, or joining us on our Twitch stream. Of course, stay tuned here to NBNN for the latest news, sports, entertainment, crazy wild happenings, the latest hijinks and shenanigans. And of course, you never know who's going to show up and sit down and sit in and chat with us here. Thank you again, Chris. We do appreciate it. Any last comments?
Nope. Just I always encourage players to reach out to me however they have concerns or questions. And I mean, a lot of times there are serious problems in our game. We know that. And just having the discussion, talking through things, my belief is that usually I enlighten the players as to why something is the way it is. But sometimes, as I think a few topics today in terms of targeting, it's you guys informing me of how you want to play differently and you expect things to behave differently. So
Indeed.
Anyways, always feel free to come talk to us. We are professionals, which by definition means we get paid to do this. That does not mean that we're the absolute best in the world.
Hey now.
So anyways, always feel free to come talk to us and call us out on stuff that's not good.
Thank you,
I
Chris,
come talk to you.
for hanging out. And
Absolutely.
Yep,
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye, Chris. Bye,
All right,
Chris.
With that, folks, we're going to wrap it up and get out of here. Of course, for those of you who tune in regularly, you know we are running way over the usual hours radio time. This is going to wreak havoc on the airwaves today. But hey, throw caution to the wind. Hell with it. We are WRFB, Radio Free Britannia. And, of course, Jack and I on NBNN. So, Jack, ready to say goodbye to the good folks? This
Yes.
is weird because we're coming out
thank you,
of
everybody,
this.
for watching out on Twitch, YouTube, or listening on Radio Free Britannia. We couldn't do the show without you guys, and we do it for you guys. Otherwise, we'd be just two guys sitting here doing the same thing to no one. So, thank you. We've got to get out of here, and y'all have a great day. And
Absolutely.
That guy.
Alrighty.
That guy's Laz.
With that, I'm Laz.
And I'm Jack.
And we are NBNN. We'll see you all tomorrow for Whacked Out Wednesday, everybody. Thanks for joining. Have a great day. And we'll see you all then.
Bye-bye.
I miss me.
Yes, where have you been, Casey?
Cupcakes.
Cupcakes. Working hard.
I like pie better.
A deaf talk to me. I feel special.
That doesn't ignore me.
Alrighty. We are